But let's start with the SEC. Every year it's always the meme. It just means more, the best conference. But a lot of the highest ranked teams, so it is what it is, I guess. But let's start off with the top of the SEC, and you might think it's Texas. It's not. It's Texas A&M, who currently has played one more conference game than Texas, so sits at the top of the league at 3-0, and this is a team I think is getting better and better every week. You saw them absolutely obliterate Missouri a couple weeks ago, and they've really just kept right on rolling as the season's moved on. I've been very impressed with them. I was very impressed with Marcel Reed as he stepped in to really fulfill duties for that team, and they did have a bye this week, but Connor Wegman coming back, we'll see if he can really retake the reins of the offense. I love Le'Veon Moss in the backfield. He's been incredible. This defense has been flying around. Nick Scorton is amazing off the edge for the Aggies, and I really think this is your second SEC championship team at this point in the year. They're getting better and better and better as the season moves on, and with how shaky teams like Alabama have looked, I'm not so sure if Georgia's going to make it unscathed through the rest of their schedule. I think A&M could really be set up well to meet probably Texas in the SEC championship. Texas did just obliterate Oklahoma in their rivalry game. They keep right on rolling. Welcome Georgia to town this week. That will be a huge game for them. Then you kind of have a weird clump of LSU, Georgia, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt, your next four teams in the SEC standings. I think this is a very underrated Arkansas team. Let's talk about them first. The quarterback situation is a little fluid there right now. I think they'll get that figured out as the season moves on. This has been a very, very solid defense. It's hard to go into Arkansas and win the season. Just ask Tennessee. They fell to the hands of the Hogs there earlier this season. LSU, I'm not sold on at all. I think the defense is frankly bad. I haven't been impressed with them very much. They got torn up by USC. They've gotten torn up by South Carolina. They got torn up by Ole Miss in the first half of that game, but the offense keeps doing just enough to bail them out. I don't know how long they can keep that going as they move into harder games further down their schedule. And then as far as Georgia goes, I expect them to drop the game to Texas this week, and then you never know what's going to happen when they play Ole Miss later in the season. The Clemson win is looking better and better every week, though, as Clemson continues to tear up the ACC behind only Miami, so we'll see what the outlook for the Dogs is at the end of the season. I would still expect them to get an at-large bid at this point. Then how about the Vanderbilt Commodores? One of the best seasons in recent memory for Vanderbilt as they sit at 4-2. Obviously, the win over number one Alabama is huge, but they didn't have hangover and followed up with a good, solid win over Kentucky. And now they welcome Ball State into Nashville. So this Vandy team should be 5-2 after this week. And honestly, they're just a couple of plays away from 6-0 right now. If they wouldn't have let Georgia State drive right down the field at the end of that game, and if they could have made the 27-yard field goal in overtime versus Missouri, 6-0 Vandy's are really a real possibility right now. But unfortunately, those didn't happen, and that's why you play the games. But next up is a lot of ranked SEC teams. Number 7, Alabama. Number 11, Tennessee. Number 19, Missouri. And number 18, Ole Miss. I expect Missouri to fall off a cliff. Honestly, this is a team that's looked worse and worse every week. This is a team I really liked going into the season, but Brady Cook is not cooking right now. He just is not good. And this team can't seem to find Luther Burden. They're struggling to get him the ball. Nate Noel has really dipped after a very strong start of the season. And Johnny Walker continues to be anonymous out there on the edge. And he was supposed to be the Darius Robinson replacement. So not really a good situation there for Mizzou. Alabama, I think, looked shaky. We've mentioned that earlier in the Week 7 recap. Talked about their unsteady defense at times. Tennessee, their unsteady offense. And Ole Miss, their unsteady everything, as neither side of the ball for that team can seem to figure out what they're doing other than faking injuries every other play late in the game. So at least Lane Kiffin's got that down. Then the bottom of the conference is Oklahoma, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky, Auburn, and Mississippi State. Oklahoma, great defense, no offense. They just could not compete with Texas. Florida's looking better each week. Did handle a UCF team that came in top 5 in the country in rushing yards per game. Then took Tennessee to overtime. And now with DJ Lagway starting the rest of the way because the Graham Mertz torn ACL. I don't know what the Gators' outlook is. I still think that's a brutal schedule. I definitely expect them to get smacked around by Texas and Georgia. But you never know. Maybe in the swamp they can steal one versus Ole Miss or LSU later in the season. And, of course, the Florida State game looking a lot easier now than it did at the beginning of the year. South Carolina has, I think, one of the best edge duos in the country in Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. They've both been playing incredibly, especially Kyle Kennard. Kennard's been playing absolutely out of his mind this season thus far. I think he could play his way into a first-round draft slot at this point. Real speed guy off the edge, does showcase power as well. I've really liked what I've seen from him, especially when he's not gunning down Jackson Dart in the backfield. Kentucky, it's they're a weird team. Obviously, the win over Ole Miss, they took Georgia to the wire, but then the struggles, the loss to Vandy, you're not sure what you're going to get from Brock Vandegrift on a week-to-week basis. Deion Walker is an incredible pass rusher on the defensive line, but just not quite enough pieces. I would love to see them get Barry and Brown the ball more because he is electric with the ball in his hands, and I love to see what he can do for that offense. Auburn, yikes. A lot of turnovers for the Auburn Tigers. The quarterback situation is not good at all. The offensive line continues to struggle. Hugh Freeze, for some reason, doesn't want to give his all-SEC caliber running back the football. Don't know why that is, but prayers up for Jarquez Hunter. Maybe he can get some more carries as we move throughout the year. And you feel for this defense because the defense has played at least solid a lot of the year, and the offense keeps giving the ball away. So not ideal for them. Mississippi State, it's a lost season at this point in Starkville. Michael Van Buren has looked at least okay at quarterback. There's some flashes there, and for a true freshman, that's really all you can ask for, but definitely on the rebuild in Starkville right now. But that is it for your SEC rundown for this week.